Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today we have a great show for you. We're going to be discussing the lead up to war again. Hi, I'm here on air, and I tell you what, we've started bringing this thing in with Periscope, and we're starting to bring a whole lot of people in. So I want to welcome all you Periscope viewers that are on right now. Do remember that if you have any questions as we move on with the program, that we will be here to specifically answer you. Argentina in town. Buenos dias, hermano, ¿cómo estás? Anyhow, we are going to have a wonderful show. America, again, the drum beats to war are here again. The drum beats of war are here. Yes, according to Periscope, they're killing Hillary's chances in the general. Sounds bien. Muy bien, señor. Estoy bien aquí en Houston, Texas. Anyhow, folks, we're going to have a great show. I'm sorry that we didn't have a show last week. What happened is we were stuck in San Francisco discussing how do we make America a better place. A whole bunch of us locked ourselves up in a house, and we sat down and we discussed how to make a better country. We discussed how do we use the body politic to actually make it all better for us. So anyhow, folks, what are we going to discuss today? Look, here is the reality. You know, this week, what did we have? This week, I'll touch on a comedy skit that was a Republican debate. But that was not the real news of the week. Americans are kept entertained by the idiocy of an incoherent, pointless political game, as the real game is played elsewhere, but from our eyes. Think about it, folks. It's not real. Today, I'll discuss the drumbeat to war. The drums, however, are not being beaten by the Obama administration. Yes. We know all American presidents have a proclivity to war. It's the gravity of the U.S. presidency that causes that. However, but at this time, it is the media as wards of the military-industrial complex doing it. At first, it was somewhat subliminal. You didn't hear much. It was just sort of, we think this is what is occurring, but now we can watch the media actually bait the presidency into war. Think about that. What are your thoughts? Let's talk. I will also be following our hashtag Politics Done Right on Twitter and at Egberto Willies. Give me a call, listen to the live stream, or listen to the podcast of Vlogcast, which is at politicsdoneright.com. We also broadcast live on Periscope, like some of you are seeing right now. Handle Egberto Willies. Now, folks, before I get to the blog of the week, I want to ask you, and let me see if any Periscope user want to weigh in on the debate before I go to the blog of the week. Periscope users, send me a message. Sorry, I got a cold in San Francisco. I'm back in Texas, but I brought back that cold from San Francisco. Tell me, folks, Periscope, give me your best impression of the debate. Write it on the screen so I can say it and tell it to the users that are on air right now. And for those users who are in the chat room, what's your impression of the debate? I really want to hear firsthand experience or what you feel about it. So, Periscope users, type, let me see on the screen what you think about the debate. And for those in the chat room, let's hear what you have to say. And do remember, folks, this is a call-in show. You can reach me at 646 929 2495. Again, that number is 646 929 2495. Welcome aboard, Ina. Glad to have you. Let's talk politics. Let's talk all the issues that concerns you. If you have any questions for the show, please be sure to type it in on Periscope or type it in the chat room. Welcome aboard. I don't speak that language, so I don't understand those characters, but welcome aboard and join the discourse. Anyhow, you know, I was hoping more of you would be interested in telling me your thoughts on the debate, but I can understand that it was such an act of idiocy that you have no interest in doing so. But you know what time it is.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, folks. The blog post of the day is actually called, or was actually titled, MSNBC reporter tries to bait Obama into supporting a new war. Again, MSNBC reporter tries to bait Obama and Americans into supporting a new war. Here it goes. And by the way, if you go to our blog site, politicsdoneright.com, and I also featured this at our Coffee Party main Facebook page. It's up there right now. You can actually see the video of Andrea Mitchell actually talking about this issue. Welcome aboard, Joseph. Glad to have you with us. Have any questions, please put it out. Oh, before I get to the blog of the week, I do have a comment. Candidates seem desperate to get their message out, talking over each other endlessly. That is so true. Welcome aboard, Nash. I missed your name, but give me some love. I'll actually see it. Okay, let's get busy. Here's the blog of the week, folks. One really wonders if many reporters and journalists are willfully ignorant or simply so gullible that they buy into the defense industrial complex's war narrative. Now, yesterday, it was announced officially, though not in these terms, that the United States will have boots on the ground in Syria. The administration twisted itself into knots to explain why it wasn't the case, but one knows better. The story was broken on MSNBC, where the United States plan was outlined. Richard Engel described the three-prong approach in this latest mission creep. Send special operation forces to the ground into Syria working with militia groups. Base a rapid reaction force in northern Iraq. Send more combat aircrafts to Turkey, including F-15s and A-10s. Seem like war to me. Seem like just another escalation. I know what many will say. We have to do it? Really? Anyhow, continuing. In effect, it is yet another escalation to war that America does not need, but will be participating in. And guess what? The media is falling in line. Remember 2001, folks, the media is falling in line. During the build-up to the war in Iraq, the media in general became a partner with the administration to convince Americans that a war was necessary. They were wards of the military-industrial complex via the Bush administration. So there we had it. They were the wards of the Bush administration. They were doing the work. Yes, everybody's always doing the work of the military-industrial complex. But here, they had a willing participant, the Bush administration. Today, the scenario is a bit different. Given that the Obama administration is not as belligerent or warmongering as recent administrations, the media have become the partner of a hidden military-industrial complex by baiting the Obama administration into war. Now, here's the deal. By the way, I usually say media have or media has. You know, when you look up the word media, you never know if it's plural or singular. I guess it depends on how you use it. In this case, I want to use media in the plural sense. Andrea Mitchell erases any doubt that as she answered a question from Brian Williams. Brian asked Andrea Mitchell why the administration announced the ramp up of military activities hours after negotiations commenced. Her answer left no doubt the angle many in the media are taking. And it should make the neocons and warmongers very, very, very happy. Frank, this is what she said. Frankly, we are not showing the muscle militarily, Andrea Mitchell said. The U.S. isn't that Russia, or the U.S. isn't that Russia and Iran are. And now you have Iran at the table. Russia pushing this and claiming that they are in the lead here. You have Jordan, one of our lead partners against ISIS, having a joint command center with the Russians. Look, we frankly, the United States, looks very weak diplomatically, and you need military muscle to back up the diplomacy. Look at those pictures again from that table in Vienna. Look at those pictures. That's what she's saying now. She's inching on. Look at those pictures in Vienna. Lavrov, that is the what would be equivalent to our Secretary of State of Russia. Lavrov is at the end of the table with John Kerry. We, America, America is supposed to be leading this coalition against ISIS. And Russia is now claiming joint leadership or primary leadership here because it is the Russian airstrikes that have been a game changer in recent weeks to prop up Assad. Okay, so what is she trying to do? First of all, it is doubtful that Russia came out right and said they are taking the lead. Secondly, why does America need to be in the lead in Syria? The Obama administration was initially smart in cutting its losses. Why would anyone want to be in the lead in what will ultimately be a destabilizing failure? The Middle East issues will be resolved when a steady state Middle East power structure and ideology is adopted by the region. I want to repeat that. That's an important statement. It's not an American statement because Americans never want to make a statement of this sort. An imperialist power generally never wants to say that, and many will take objection to me saying an imperialist power. Welcome aboard, whoever just came on board. I just saw your message. Interesting. Won't upset me. Never get upset. Anyhow, I'll repeat the statement. The Middle East issues will be resolved when a steady state Middle East power structure and ideology is adopted by the region. They may ultimately need a war among themselves to resolve it. We do not need Western ideologies to be the driving force, as it is nothing but fuel to respective Middle Eastern factions. Okay? Brian Williams made an important statement at the end of the clip. Of course, it wasn't original. We've heard it before. But it was worth mentioning, and it's important to be mentioned, and it goes as follows. It is harder to kill an idea, Brian Williams said. This military campaign, this war against ISIS, is going to be very difficult because of the recruitment, because of the idea of ISIS, really the face of evil in the modern world. Yes, Brian Williams was not hyperventilating this time. Brian Williams was not creating stuff this time. Brian Williams was not exaggerating this time. Brian Williams was right this time. Brian Williams actually made some sense. Folks, the telephone number 646 929 2495. Again, that number is 646 929 2495. I'm coming to my 210 caller right now. I think that is my good old friend John in San Antonio. I hope he's not swimming in all the flood waters that's afflicting the entire hill country, as well as it just moved into Houston. Before I get to John, folks, I'm wearing my t-shirt. I was in Washington, D.C. a few weeks ago, and we had the March for Justice. The March for Justice, where we covered not only social justice, but we covered economics. We covered a lot of issues that we should all be talking about, that we all need to be talking about. So I decided to sport my little t-shirt today about that. Probably next week we'll get a little bit deeper into that. But the war drums that I heard all week, the debate was just a cover. The debate was just a facade. The debate was just the idiocy that we have when big things are happening. And I know you hear, oh, it's only 50 guys that are going over there to join the special forces in Syria. You hear the word mission creep and it sort of becomes cliche. Folks, this is serious. And do remember as well, Hillary, if she were to become president, Hillary is not a neocon, but she's not adverse to many of the policies neocons like. So before I go any further, let me bring my good old friend John in here and hear John's point of view. John may have a different point of view, but that's what this show is all about. And before I go to John, I want to say one other thing. On my KPFT show in Houston last week, a caller wanted to disagree with me, and we were talking about Obamacare, and we were talking about whether a capitalist society could immediately change over to a single-payer healthcare system. And I was playing devil's advocate, and the doctor that was on the show, the first thing that he said was, "Can I disagree with you?" And that hit me like a knife, because unlike many shows, many radio shows, both on air, which KPFT is, and internet shows like this, many times the moderator never wants you to disagree. I want to tell everybody that ever listens to Politics Done Right. Politics can only be done right when many ideas come together and they're massaged, and then you get a better result. I came home and I told my wife, you know what he said, and she had been listening to the show. So I just wanted to make it clear, and I think it's something that I need to say every time I have my show. It is important that nobody believes they have preeminence over what is right, or have preeminence having the absolute opinion. Because if you can make someone change because of fact-based information, we should all do that. That is how we make a better America. But anyhow, let me bring my friend in. John, come on in, my friend.
Good afternoon, Egberto.
How are you doing today?
I'm all right. Okay, first I want to agree with you on the policy aspect of what's happened in the last couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that. I mean, I was against even bombing in Syria.
Right, I remember.
Wrong. I don't think we should be dealing with that situation at all. It's too much of a quagmire. I mean, there's really hardly any forces besides the Kurds that we agree with. Most of the forces are jihadi forces. That's why they stopped giving money last week. So basically, yes, I agree with what you're saying, but I think you're putting, and this is the running argument that we've
yes,
had,
I know where you're going
before.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But I'll say it again, because what you're saying, you should be directly, talking about Andrea Mitchell and not using the word the media.
Okay.
Because I don't feel that from the media. I mean, I'm watching the media, way too much, and And I just don't get that. In fact, I was on the treadmill yesterday while they were doing the press conference. And so I saw about an hour of the press conference and the coverage afterwards. And, you know, what the press was doing, Kristen Welker and other people at the press conference, they were saying, why is Obama, after saying in 2013 there will be no boots on the ground, why is he reversing that? And, you know,
you're correct.
Josh Ernest said,
John, can I just stop you 1 second and then I'll bring you back in? First of all, I wanted to say that you're correct. I wrote this piece, the first one that I wrote yesterday. I said that, you know, after seeing Andrea Mitchell and Richard Engel back in Syria. But what got to me was the questioning, exactly as you said, occurred. In other words, they said, oh, wait a minute, you said you weren't going to have boots on the ground, but you're having boots on the ground. I saw that discussion in two different ways, right? One is to be adversarial with the president having seemed to be putting boots on the ground. But when you heard, I don't know if you remember when the president attempted to go to Congress for permission to invade Libya. It was a few years ago. I think it was probably a year and a half ago. How it actually seemed like many in the media was calling. They weren't telling him what to do. They were simply calling him weak for his behavior or his actions with Libya. And I'm hearing the same thing, notwithstanding what we heard from those people who questioned boots on the ground. The constant, they're saying that he is weak for not doing what, they're saying that he's weak. And in saying that he's weak, what they're implying is that he needs to do something, he needs to be over there. And being over there is what I'm calling war. So, I mean, I think most of them you would hear say the Obama Middle East policy has been weak. And the only thing that could possibly make the Obama policy not weak is for us to go over there militarily. And you say?
No, you're right. I mean, Andrea Mitchell, I agree with the comment that you're saying. You know, what I'm saying is don't blame the whole media. And Steve Croft did the same thing in the 60 Minutes interview. I mean, almost word for word. He said the exact same criticism. And many Republicans, you know, have the same thing. But you're right. I mean, it wasn't Libya. It's actually Syria.
Was it Syria that we... Okay.
Yeah, it was Syria and Iraq. He wanted to have, you know, an approval for that.
Right.
And through Congress didn't want to do it because they don't want to take a side, because if things go really badly, you know, they're just not doing what their duty calls for.
Exactly.
You know? But I mean, that's typical of the Republican Congress. They want to criticize Obama, and I agree he should be criticized in this case.
Yes.
But they don't want to live up to their obligations as being an elected official of the Congress. And so, you know, there's just incredible hypocrisy going on by them. And so they're trying to have it both ways. They don't want to have a vote where they're on record, yet they want to constantly criticize him for being weak. I think Obama was making, you know, has pretty much made the right decisions, except for, like I said, going into Syria. Now, I hope this, you know, what Josh Ernest was saying was that this wasn't going to be that much of an escalation, and I hope that's right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, time will tell. Well, I mean, I understand your concerns about it, and it is concerning to me also. But I mean, we'll just have to see. Right now, they're saying they're just going to go on raids. Which, I mean, you know, I don't think they should even be in Syria at all, period. I don't think they should be bombing in Syria. I mean, the Russians are crazy for going in there. I mean, they're essentially taking sides in this Sunni-Shiite conflict. They're taking sides with the Shiites, which are the Iranians and, you know, the Alawites, which are Assad's people. And so, I mean, he's insane to do this. So I mean, and Obama actually said that in the Steve Croft interview.
Right.
And so I agree with what you're saying, but I mean, you know, I do disagree with the overgeneralization of the media, and you also did it on Thursday because I really disagree with you on. Unfortunately, I was running errands and I wasn't able to.
Yeah, we missed you.
To get back home.
We
Yeah,
missed
okay.
you.
But I mean, I really disagree with your point that you had on your
The KPFT
show.
Can I
Right.
before you disagree completely? I want you to I want to tell you that there's a blog that I'm about to write right after this. You know, the Federalist paper is a right-wing paper, right? Or a right-wing rag, okay? But one of the writers there, or I don't know if she is the editor or what, was on MSN. I think it was on MSNBC or one of those stations, and she illustrated exactly what was wrong with the moderation and what I really have to call ineptitude in that room of the people asking questions. And she said it so well. And I have the video that I've already cut out that I'm going to blog about a little bit later that I really want you to see. But the reason I hit those guys, it wasn't that I thought, oh, they were being so bad to the Republicans. That's not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say is that they opened themselves up for that by the way the questions was asked, and it was kind of interesting because there are two people that made two points that just kind of hit it much better than I was able to make it, and that was the lady from the Federalists, and I'll post that later, and there was one other person I don't quite recall right now where they said, maybe it was on Vox, because Vox really hit. Not Rubio, Cruz's. You remember Cruz had that litany where he actually enumerated all the questions and he made it look like all the questions were demeaning in a particular fashion. On Vox, they really dissected what he said and showed that he was wrong. But what my contention is that the way the questions were asked gave him the plausibility to do what he did. But anyway, your thoughts.
Well, I see your point. I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, I actually didn't watch the debate. You know, it was opening night for the Spurs, and so I have my priorities.
I hear you, buddy.
But I mean, obviously, I followed everything afterwards,
right?
And so all the posts, the comments. So anyway, what I'm saying is that I don't think that was necessarily a bad question. I think that I mean, you could have asked it like, here's the way Fox News asked during their debate of Ted Cruz. How can you win in 2006 when you're such a divisive figure?
Right.
Okay. Well, that's a little bit more precise. But I mean, at the same time, they were talking about the debt ceiling, about this vote on the budget, which is pretty important. I mean, everybody knows what Ted Cruz is about. Everybody knows that he's the one that led the government shutdown.
Cost us $24 billion.
What an extremist he is and what an opportunist he is. I mean, he's one of the worst people in politics today in America. I mean, he's absolutely awful. And so, the fact that he turned this around and he tried to make it, like this is a gotcha question.
Right.
He didn't answer the question.
Right.
He can't answer the question because, everything that Harwood said about him, or Quintanilla rather, is right.
Right.
He is, this extremist figure. And everything that he's done has been horrible for America, and so so I don't place much blame on them. I mean, I'm not saying CNBC. I never watch them. I don't care about all these people who all they care about is making more money. Friends are telling me all the time, oh, I made, 10% last year in the market. I made 8% in the market. I'm like, so what? I don't want to support corporations that don't help their employees. All they care about is your stockholder value.
Right.
So, I mean, it shouldn't be about, the actual employees versus you, the stockholder, making money.
In that light, I want to read something to you and the audience because earlier today, I placed a blog on, I think it was maybe my 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock blog or so, that I titled Nobel laureate economist reveals a truth one hopes Republicans hear, right? And I'm not going to read the blog, but I want to read the piece that Krugman said because it was an interesting piece, and the preface is this: he was talking about how the debate went, and the amount of lies that were told, and why it is that it's actually successful. So here is what he said, and he called them grifters. About the grifters: start with the lowest level in which marketers use political affinity to sell get-rich-quick schemes, miracle cures, and such like. That's a Carson phenomenon. It is just the latest example of a long tradition. As the historian Rick Perlstein documents, a strategic alliance of snake oil vendors and conservative true believers go back half a century. Direct mail marketing using addresses culled from political campaigns has given way to email, but the game remains the same. At somewhat higher level are marketing campaigns more or less tied to what purports to be policy analysis. Right-wing warnings of imminent hyperinflation coupled with demand that we return to the gold standards were fanned by media figures like Glenn Beck, who used his show to promote Goldline, a firm selling gold coins and bars at inflated prices. Sure enough, Mr. Beck has been a vocal backer of Ted Cruz, who has made a return to gold one of his signature policy positions. Oh, and former Congressman Ron Paul, who has spent decades warning of runaway inflation and is undaunted by its failure to materialize, is very much in the business of selling books and videos showing how you too can protect yourself from the coming financial disasters. At a higher level still, are operations that are in principle engaging in political activity, but mainly seem to be generating income for their organizers. Last week, the Times published an investigative report on some political action committee raising money in the name of anti-establishment conservative causes. The report found that the bulk of the money these PACs raise ends up going to cover administrative costs and consultant fees, very little to their ostensible purpose. For example, only 14% of what the Tea Party Leadership Fund spends is candidate focus. And my addition to that was the following. In other words, the reason there are so many Republican candidates willing to run, even as most know they do not stand a chance in hell of winning, is because they see the Republican base as a gullible people from whom they extract money on a myriad of fallacies and scare tactics. If the Republican Party has really put themselves into a position where they cannot win the White House, why should liberals, why should moderates, why should clear-thinking Republicans care? Because if a part of the body is that sick, then the whole body is susceptible to metastasis. Shallow thinking and irrational thinking are much more contagious than a rational thinking process capable of crossing ideological lines. So, I mean, it is amazing. The reason I brought that up is because it sort of tied into what you said. That is, we have a whole bunch of candidates running. We have to play the game. This is the game they're playing. They're making money individually. They're making money for their, for their little corpse or whatever. But the reality is, we have to play that game so that metastasis doesn't occur. And you say, John. And before you go, folks, this is a call-in show. We have another call. I'll be coming to 620 after John. This is a call-in show, 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. If you don't want to only hear me, John, and whoever 620 is, and you have something to add, call in. And by the way, I've been getting a few messages that I miss on Periscope. If you have something to add, put it in now. When I'm reading, I can't quite see the screen before it disappears. But go ahead and give us a call. 646-929-2495, or put your message on Periscope. John?
Yeah, no, I agree with the Krugman article, definitely. But one thing I want to talk about, going back to the media,
yes, sir,
is that, whenever Limbaugh started out in the 80s and all the right-wing radio kind of started to dominate, the first thing that they did was to convince everybody that they were the only source that was unbiased. They were the only conservative source, and that ABC, CBS, and everybody else besides conservative media were all biased. And that was just total BS. And they continue to believe that to this day. So I do think that there is a problem with always blaming the media. I mean, I agree with you on a lot of different things. I agree with you on Andrea Mitchell in that particular circumstance. But I mean, to just say the media is leading the charge for that, I just don't see that yet. I mean, maybe I'm in my own liberal bubble.
No, I don't see
that.
I don't look at it as a liberal bubble. I mean, I think it's just a point of view. Okay, my point of view is that the media should be much better than it is, and for not being better,
I agree with that.
And then for not being better, I consider it complicit. You simply believe I am too harsh on the media in general. I don't think, I mean, theoretically speaking, they seem mutually exclusive. I don't know that they are, because the fact that you believe that the media could be a lot better, and I define a failed media as a complicit media, you know, I mean, I personally, I don't see a big chasm there, if you will. But I honestly do believe that because of the state of our media, and the media in general, John, I mean the overall media, I think they have driven us to where we are. And, you know, you can say, well, these individual entities within the media are fine. And you're correct. I mean, look at Krugman. Look at even sometimes David, what's a conservative at New York? David something.
David Frum.
Not Frum. He's
David Brooks.
David Brooks. I actually like David Brooks a whole lot of times. I mean, there are times that you know, he feels he has to recover his conservative mantra, but there are a lot of times David Brooks tries to make a whole lot of sense. And you know, I mean, so I read all of them. I listen to all of them, and you know, even Andrea Mitchell. Sometimes Andrea Mitchell is such on point. Let me give a good example. Last week, about 3 weeks ago, Andrea Mitchell appeared on Meet the Press. Andrea Mitchell, I don't know what she was thinking, but when the Republicans were discussing shutting down the government, and when they were discussing some issue in foreign policy, and I still have the video that I said I was going to cut it up and put it up in a blog, it just that other things took precedence. But she actually said, America as an imperial power cannot X, Y, Z. And while I'm typing and blogging and listening to Meet the Press, as soon as she said imperialist, you know there are certain keywords that when you hear it, it's like, did that really come from a show on NBC? Somebody saying, using the word America and imperialist in the same context? I can't believe it. But so I mean, there are times when these guys allow themselves to actually start talking and being you know, unabated, or you know, I don't know what the word is, but just saying things. I mean, it is amazing. Sometimes they really make a whole lot of sense. Let me keep you hot, John. Unless you want to answer real quickly before I go to 620.
Well, I just want to talk real quick about this thing, you know, about this revolt that the Republican presidential candidates are having, and I want to kind of play this out. You know,
Okay.
What is the end game for this? In other words, they're saying they want, you know, Limbaugh and Hannity and Mark Levin and all these extremists to host these debates.
Right.
But I mean, where are they going to show these debates? You know, I'm looking at the schedule right now.
Right.
The next debate is going to be on Fox Business, and the next one is on CNN, then ABC, then CBS. You know, so are these networks going to let Rush Limbaugh host these debates? I mean, they're not going to do that.
I don't think that's what they're
a bunch
doing.
Of crybabies who
Right.
can't face the fact that they live in their little bubble world, and they can't really accept the fact that they don't know policy, or that they have policy that's been failing for the past 35 years.
Right.
And they don't want to live up to that. They don't want to deal with policy.
Right.
And
Well,
so what's the end game in this? What is the end game?
Let me tell you, I am
Are
lost.
they just going to cancel all the debates?
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make NBC the stooge. And by making NBC the stooge, the expectation is that CNN and CBS will simply fall in line and do whatever they want them to do. In other words, I think it's a play. And the other that debate that they suspended or canceled or whatever, believe it or not, it's right here in my town. It's in Houston at the University of Houston. So I don't think they're. My hunch is, if they cancel that debate, there's good cause to cancel it, because I can guarantee you that when that debate comes out here, there will be people out there protesting. They will have not quite the welcome that they would have in Iowa. I can guarantee you that in Houston. So, I mean, maybe that's just a third thing that they're trying to look at. But, folks, the telephone number is 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. If you want to speak, please, I see some other lines on here as well. If you want me to know that you want to speak, please push the number 1 so that I can see that you want to say something and I can put you on air. Otherwise, your number just appears. Okay, I see 951. I need to run to 620 first, and then I'll come to you, 951. Okay, let's go to 620. I think this is my friend Jack. Jack, I haven't heard from you in a while. How are you doing, sir?
Well, it's because my phone has been crazy.
Let me just, Jack, let me just say one thing. Joseph Pomponio just gave a notice that Telemundo's debate was actually canceled as well. Think about that. I wonder why they would cancel the Telemundo debate. You know why. But anyway, Jack, come on in.
Okay, I want to paraphrase Donald Trump.
Yes, sir.
And I want to call these people that he calls the silent majority militant moderates. That's all. And I hope this term spreads all over the country.
A militant moderate.
Because that's what we need. Militant moderate.
Okay, so is that what you are, Jack?
That's what I call myself, because I'm pretty much conservative when it comes to fiscal stuff. I'm also progressive or liberal when it comes to social issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, let me tell you something.
Okay, what I wanted to say is that I think that Donald Trump will eventually be the Republican nominee for president.
Really?
Yeah, I really think so.
Okay, hold on, John. I'm curious. Do you think that, John?
Even though I disagree with him 90%.
I know, but I'm curious. I haven't heard one of my callers say that yet. John, what you say? Is it going to be Donald?
I don't think so, but I mean, it's hard to say.
Right.
I mean,
okay.
I got to give Rubio the nod right
but
now.
I do like you, John.
Right.
I agree with a lot of what you say, but I think they got to be very skeptical about
Hi, Thorist.
what they call the mainstream media, particularly
Welcome
the New
to
York
the show.
Times. Now, the New York Times is the Bible of the media.
Right. Okay, Jack, hold your thoughts.
It's the Bible.
Jack, hold your thoughts a bit. I want to bring in 951 since we're coming down to the last 15. So I'll keep it new hot to the conversation. Okay, 951, who do I have the honor of speaking with?
Hello, Albert. This is Mike Harris in California.
Hey, Mike, how you doing, my friend?
Good. I'm listening, and it's very interesting. You're talking about the media being maybe complacent or even trying to shame the administration into joining
A war?
beforehand. Yeah, it's really hard to understand exactly what our policy is in this conflict.
Yeah,
Seeing
I
as
thought,
how
Wrestler.
that we at one time invaded and overthrew the Baathists in Iraq, who were Sunnis, and basically shut them out of government
Right.
to support the Shiites. And then we were really
Saddam Hussein.
we were really worried that Iraq would have too much influence being in Shia, and now that we're supporting Iraq, trying to control a conflict in Iraq by fighting ISIS, and the media has made very little. I mean, there have been articles, but they make very little of the fact of where their support of ISIL or ISIS or the Levant is actually coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting that both the Wall Street Journal, Al Jazeera, have also said that a lot of this funding comes from private donors in Qatar and the United Emirates, with a smaller part of Saudi Arabia,
You
all
know,
of Sunnis.
Mike, let me tell you.
And,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, and the irony is those are all places where the U.S. has bases.
Mm-hmm.
And this, we were saying that we weren't going to get into the Syrian conflict, but we were supporting a group of only a half a dozen Syrian rebels
Right.
that really
Right.
never had engaged, but we're spending maybe $68 million supposedly. So where did it go? You know, I'm not saying that it went into somebody's pocket, but I have the feeling that this was funding maybe two sides to the same conflict.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. The interesting thing about it is what we have to be careful of is, or there are a lot of things that we need to realize, right? First of all, when it comes to private funding all these different organizations that are creating chaos in the Middle East, you always have to ask yourself why. And I have a very, I don't have any evidence for this, of course. I'm not over there, and I don't know their culture, whatever. But one can, there's a thing known as a reductio ad absurdum. In other words, when you take out all the other parameters, what could possibly be the reason why folks are doing whatever they're doing? And to me, it becomes readily evident that a lot of times what these guys are doing is they want to keep chaos, but they want controlled chaos. In other words, we can remain in power as chaos occur. Because there's chaos, the people in general can't see that we're a monarchy that is simply stifling, that is simply extracting all there is from from that part of the world and giving the people very little. It's controlled chaos by design, and then Papa America, Papa the Western countries come in there and they try to just keep the controlled chaos. But after all, guess what? The Western countries are the ones who created these false borders. The Western countries are the ones who created these false countries. So, and in creating these false countries, they nominated or they assigned indirectly or implicitly a power structure that's there. So, I mean, it all falls into the place. And by the way, it's the same thing that occurs here in America. We just do it in a bit more civilized manner. The chaos that you see in the Republican debates, the chaos that you see that the Republicans causing. Look, I think Marco Rubio, I think Cruz, I think most of those candidates on stage are very bright men and women. They're very bright. We make fun of them. We call them stupid. We do all kinds of things. They are so far from that it isn't funny. What they are, and please take this, I don't want to be uncivil, but I will be for one word. What they are is evil. And let me tell you why. Because the policies that they are actually supporting, the policies that they want to put out, in as much as they know they don't work and they are ineffective, they are going to continue to push it, and they're going to continue to lie to people because people look up to the politicians as people who should know more. Yes, many of those who are on the progressive side know better, and they try to fight back. But the American method is somehow to believe that people in general, the politicians are smarter, the journalists are smarter. Let me tell you something. I got a lot of callers on this call and on other calls. And I learned more a hell of a lot of times from a lot of the everyday folk. You listen to the amount of research my brother John in San Antonio does. I can almost guarantee you if he sat down with Andrea Mitchell or several of these other people to discuss not only international policy of today, but of things that have occurred, they would be able to have a real conversation. And in fact, when it comes to the analysis of the conversation, a lot of folks here on this call or elsewhere would be able to sit down and have better analytical or better analysis on what they're seeing. And why is that? Because they're living in the real world. They're not living in a bubble where it's just about what these power structures fighting among each other, but they're among the people. I can guarantee that. One of the things that I try to foment on shows like this is for us to not have this omnipotent or believe the media, the mainstream media, believe the politicians, believe the op-ed writers or whatever are somehow omnipotent and they know it all. And we refer to, when I write, I refer to these guys when they say something that I think can be corroborated, makes sense or whatever. But I don't sell or I don't discount my thoughts, John's thoughts, Jack's thoughts, Mike's thoughts, Pomponio's thoughts, or anybody else's thoughts because they have not attained that word of journalist. They have not attained these different values. Yes, we have to give credence to somebody who has gone through a method. When I say a method, a journalist has gone to school and they've learned techniques that journalists know. Well, now guess what? These techniques you can pick up off the internet and kind of learn what they are, and you make mistakes more so than a journalist should. But these journalists that we so revered are the same journalists who screwed us into Iraq, or the same journalists who did all these things that supposedly they shouldn't have, or who missed all these things that supposedly they should not have missed. So one of the things we push here at the Coffee Party is empowerment. And we also push a program known as Be the Media. Because we think what we really need in this country is an all-engaging people. Whether it is people that are, low information people and all. Low information people and all need to be a part of the dialogue. Well, look, folks, we are at the latter stage of this show, and what I want to do is encourage folks to give their closing statements. And Jack, I am coming to you right now, so please have some thought ready to give me a closing statement. Jack, you're hot.
Yeah, well, need to segregate the media. You got to be more criticized with the media.
Mm-hmm.
I think too many people agree.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you get the right wingers and some of the
Jack,
left wingers.
hold one second.
Yeah.
Hold one second. The telephone number for the show, somebody's asking on Periscope. The telephone number for the show is 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. Continue, please, Jack. Sorry for the interruption. We're still trying to figure out how we mix Periscope and everything.
And I think that should not agree with the media.
Right.
You got Fox News. You got CNN. Al Jazeera should be considered in
absolutely
thinking.
Yes, we should discriminate them all. And you're right. You started your closing comment with we should discriminate. And Jack, you're right. I have to run to Mike Harris now. Mike Harris, give me your closing statement.
Well, I'd like to say that, I'd agree that the media is complicit or even duplicitous in some of the actions, but I'd like to give a good shout out that there are good media out there, like Graham Greenwald at The Intercept, who wrote all those great articles
Yes.
for The Guardian.
Yes.
exposing the NSA. Radley Balco, the Washington Post, that fights against corruption in the drug war.
Granted.
Jacob Suleiman, Reason Magazine, that has been a very good voice for corruption and police brutality. And, there's a lot of others if you have the willingness
to search. Yes, you're right.
Data.
I mean, there's consortiumnews.com. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. I don't remember the name of the guy who actually brought down the Iran or discovered or broke the Iran-Contra story at Consortium News.
Gary Webb.
There you go.
Dark Alliance, Gary Webb.
Okay.
That's
the one in San Francisco. Yes. Yes. Anyway, well,
and also OC Weekly and Nick Shue, who wrote the movie script for Killing the Messenger.
Right. Well, look, Mike, I appreciate your calling into the show, and please keep listening and share the links. Let's bring this up. We had good coverage on Periscope today, and we had great coverage in the chat room. John, your closing statement.
Okay. I'll talk a little bit about Bernie because, even though it's been kind of a tough week with Biden
Right.
out of the race, his polling numbers have been not so great.
Right.
But, I mean, we're still going to fight hard. And, he actually said that, marijuana should be decriminalized. So that was a great moment for everybody who believes in that. I'm certainly believe in that. And so, I just want to say it's a good show. I definitely agree with that. What the previous caller was talking about, what was going on about playing both sides,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was necessarily true. I just think it was very hard. Most of these groups, they had jihadists
Mm-hmm.
along with people who wanted more of a secular rule, and they were within one group, and so it was very hard for people to know, who were jihadists and who weren't, because they're and so that was a major problem. But talking about the Sunni Shia split, this is something that is a major problem. This is going on in Yemen also,
Right.
where we're supporting the Saudis, and we should not be supporting the Saudis at all. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
We should be neutral in this. We should not be helping the Saudis who with their terrible human rights policy and their backward, views towards women and just so many other things. So, I just hope that, we can realize that, there's only so much we can do, and I think we agree with this in these countries. I mean, I hate to see ISIS take power, and I hate to see,
Right.
Jihadis gain, but, we cannot be the world's police force.
Thank
I thought
you.
we learned that after Vietnam.
Oh, John,
But,
John, I don't know. We never learned, John. We know what.
Yeah, I know it. Well, I think that the election of Obama was the
Yes.
fact that we did overturn it, and
Yes.
so it's kind of sad to see that he's resorting to this. But I mean, again, I'm hopeful that he's going to be honest, and these people are just going to be, in a slight measure. I mean, we'll just have
90
to see. Time will
seconds.
tell. I mean, they're acting like this isn't a big deal.
I hear you,
I
but
hope they're right.
I got 1 minute left, John. Look, I appreciate your call. I appreciate your point of view. I appreciate your knowledge. All my callers, thank you for calling in. Folks, please do remember to go to politicsdoneright.com for this show. Likewise, you can please go to coffeepartyusa.com. Consider being a member. Remember, we are out there changing the world. We are helping
60
folks.
seconds.
We are helping folks to become the media. All these things that we talk about on this show is about empowering folks to be a part of the body politic and not simply sit down and take it. This is Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies. You have a wonderful day. I do appreciate this time that you've given me. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.